Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on Episode 8 of the anime series Zankyo no Terror, or Terror in Resonance. And it would be plain to say that the emotive tension of this episode was ramped up to 11 by the end. We're picking up right where we left off, with 5 very much on Lisa's coattails, having stolen her ID card, and she's tracking her using the CCTV cameras all over the place, and basically is led back to the Sphinx Boys' hideout, where she sends a package that very plainly says, you know, it's a bomb. When the boys are coming home after a little shopping, basically she's running for the hills as they're approaching their hideout, and it just all goes up in a ball of flame. It was insane. Of course, as this is unfolding, we find out that Shibazaki and his investigators are being reprimanded, the majority of which have 3 months leave that they have been basically given. But Shibazaki is the guy, you know, that is really taking the brunt of the blame. He is the kind of honorable man who is requesting that anyway, and his higher-ups are basically telling him he's going to be suspended indefinitely. We don't know if we're going to ever reinstate you kind of situation, because you're taking command of this situation, you're defying orders by doing so, and all this stuff. Doesn't matter that, you know, Shibazaki witnessed the fact that Sphinx was, you know, basically not behind the explosion at the airport and everything like that, that it's 5 and her people. Whoever they really are, whatever their motives really are, still as yet unclear, but we find out through some of the dialogue between them that they're after an item. Is it the plutonium that was stolen? Because it seems like that's where all fingers are pointing, but there's still not enough evidence to know for sure, and it definitely seems like, you know, 5 is not all there. She's kind of having a conversation with herself on one point that this is not funny. This scenario is not funny. Seems like she suffers headaches, and I'm just wondering what exactly that's all about. But we basically may have hints given to us through Shibazaki's ongoing investigation after having to turn in his badge. He and one of his right-hand people are continuing the investigation to track down this plan known as the Athena Plan, something that happened several years prior, where children from orphanages were taken and tested, and the smartest, brightest ones, the ones with, I guess, the most adaptability to whatever the scenario was that was unfolding, were never returned. You know, a lot of them are suspected to have been taken by the government and such like that, and they basically, for all intents and purposes, were lost within the system. Now, Shibazaki has one of the cybercrime investigators hack the system to try to find out and uncover more about this Athena plan, what it involved, and that kind of stuff. And they uncover the fact that this was, you know, testing being done on these children. Pharmaceutical companies and medical companies were involved as well, which seems to implicate they must have been, you know, trying to enhance maybe the mental capabilities and the intelligence capabilities of these children, whether that's dipping over into some sort of psychic communication, astral projection, those kinds of things remains to be seen. But it seems like with how often 5 is sort of consoling herself and having conversations with herself, could she be seeing and sensing beyond the norms is the question I have, especially being very intuitive about 9 and 12's whereabouts. Now, 9 and 12, all the while, you know, they have this ongoing discussion about involving Lisa in this, basically because of her involvement. They know they're very much at risk of having their entire situation, you know, ripped out from under them, as well as the fact that Lisa, you know, they've seen her face. They know how to identify her. They can be led to them so much easier. Their plan, as 9 basically outlines it to 12, has to be accelerated. There's something big that they want to, you know, basically do, but they need to be rid of Lisa. She's a problem as far as 9 is concerned. 12 is very much reluctant. You know, I mean, he's willing to backpedal on the entire plan of action that they've had now that Lisa's involved. Again, it still remains to be seen if there's some sort of romantic interest between 12 and Lisa, but in any case, he cares enough for her that he's willing to broach the topic of ending this entire scenario, whatever their game plan has been since the get-go, to 9, and 9 doesn't really want to have it. So Lisa, of course, takes it upon herself. She's been listening to this entire conversation as they've moved to a new sort of arcade game garage hideout, and basically takes it upon herself to leave. leading herself into the hands of the waiting five. And there's this very tense moment where, she's like strapped to a chair, and Five, while she's unconscious, is painting her fingernails and everything like that. She makes some crack about you're not really taking care of your nails, and trying to gain Lisa's confidence at first. I want to help 9 and 12. I want to help Sphinx before they do something that they cannot be brought back from, before they cross that divide that will forever see them bottomed out, whether that's death, whether that's incarceration for life, those kinds of things. And Lisa, for lack of anything better, she just wants to help these boys. She cares about them. Even though she's been getting stonewalled by one of those two, she's willing enough to say, this is how I got involved with them. Leave them alone, please. Let them be safe and all this kind of stuff. And finally, once she's given Five this information, Five just goes right back to that psychotic woman. She's like, you know what? You should have died. You should have let yourself die instead of getting involved in this mess. Imagine what it must have been like, she says very cruelly to Lisa, for these two guys to have to be dragging this ball and chain woman around who is doing nothing but wreaking havoc and ruining all of their plans and all this stuff. As if Lisa doesn't feel bad enough as it is. The thing is to keep in mind, though, is this isn't just about belittling Lisa to her face. Lisa is now the pawn in the scheme, and that's very much where we end the episode, with 12 resolving, I have to go and save Lisa. They basically get a call from her cell phone. They see her tied up to a chair, and 12's decision has already been made before he even leaves their little hideout. 9 is so reluctant and so apprehensive. He basically tells 12 point blank, this is a trap. What are you going to do? How do you think you're going to best the situation? How do you think you're going to save her? What can you even conceive of doing? 12 has no answers. All he knows is, as he says, he turns around and lays down the law. I just don't have time to think. I don't have time. I've got to go. And that's where we leave it, with the to be continued. Everything has ramped up that much more. The revelations coming from the Athena plan and what was happening to these children. Specifically, we still are in the dark as far as why 9 and 12 are doing what they're doing. Are they trying to get recompense for all those years they were tested on and messed around with? Is there something grander, to do with their scheme that they're unfolding that 9 wants to now accelerate? Will they in fact accelerate it, or will it be cast aside to essentially go and try to save Lisa? What is going to be their dominant point of action from this point on is the question. And of course, Shibazaki is uncovering more and more about government tyranny and how maybe within certain societal guidelines you could say Sphinx is not responsible for what they're doing. They're only reacting to an even more messed up situation that, was happening from their childhood and all this kind of stuff, this abusive behavior and testing on them and all that, whatever it is. Whatever it all amounts to, we are now riding the peak of that precipice to the last few episodes of this series, and everything is tantamount. Once again, episode by episode, we're just building up, and everything escalates to the point of just brilliance and madness, and it's beautiful. And of course, because of all of that, I cannot wait to see where we go next in next week's episode. Very intriguing that they pushed it back a week so that the 9th episode would be airing on September 11th, 9/11, which is something some people have been speculating may have been done deliberately. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in that episode. And so, yeah, otherwise, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. I loved this episode, loved this series so much. I can't wait to see where we go from here. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.